The sun's coming out. We're gonna have a west wind and it's gonna help push us down the waterway to where we're camping tonight. That means we can catch the snow. Have my door open for a couple minutes. So, canoe trip and snow and wind. Got the canoe pulled up and it's safely onto shore. We're not going to worry about the wind blowing it off. And found a nice spot, nice hardwood bush. There's going to be no shortage of firewood around here. There's a ton of blowdown. The sun's starting to come out and it's amazing what the bush does for the shelter from the wind. Hey Joe, we're out here. The wind, you can hear it, but you don't feel it like you do when you're on the water or you're in the open field. So
we were getting pushed around.
It's going to be perfect. There's some nice ravines too that we're going to go scope the area, see if we can find a good spot for a campsite. There's going to be lots of options. After all the Brokeback Mountain comments, I told Joe I got to sleep in my own tent this time around. My wife is a little worried. So the wind's not so bad while we're in the bush. We're lucky enough to be in this nice hardwood bush. You can see the ground's covered in oak leaves and snow's coming down, but it's not going to be a problem. We're going to have a nice fire going tonight. We're going to unpack our stuff. I'm going to set up my tent. Joe's going to do a tarp setup, so we'll kind of talk about that a little bit later in the video. There's a bit of a slope to the water, so I got to make sure that when I set up my tent, my head's facing up, because you don't want to be rolling off to the sides. You don't want to have your head downhill from your feet, so that's something I'm taking into consideration when doing this. That's a ground sheet. That doesn't come with the tent when you buy it. If you don't have one and you got a two-person tent, make sure you get one, because a trip like this is a perfect example of why you need one. The moisture is going to seep through the bottom of the tent if you don't have one, because like I said, it rained all day yesterday. The ground is saturated here. It's actually puddling up in some spots. So regardless of what tent you got, make sure you can bring a ground sheet when you do your trips. So what I do when I get to camp, I like to hang up my backpack. It's kind of like my locker, right? I go in and get the gear that I can. So inside here I carry a strap for it. So this is just a safety harness from my deer hunting setups. So it's just a spare one that I have. I throw on the top of my backpack. When I get to camp, I hang it on a tree. I have a carabiner on the back of my backpack and I just hang it from there. Really simple, no knots, no fancy knots, nothing that I really need to tell you about, except that it's a good idea to do it. There. Okay, so what I brought for this trip, sitting pad. Always bring this on trips, whether you want to kneel down, get out of your tent, stand on it, change your socks, that sort of thing. This is a Thermarest little Z seat, but weighs nothing. It's really handy to have. Always bring this. So this trip I brought Gransford Brook hatchet and Silky Gone Boy saw. Like I was saying, everything I need for this trip is in here. I have a air mattress, my sleeping bag, pillow, all the clothing. A puffy jacket is going to get down to, I think it's going to get down to -3 tonight. With the wind chill, like we'll be waking up to -8 degrees Celsius weather, so it'll be a cold morning. So canoe trip, make sure everything I need is in a dry bag. That's the one thing that could get dangerous, where no matter where you are, you go in the water and you're spending the night. I know that I got wool long johns in here, a warm sleeping bag, everything I need to not worry about the cold, and it's got to be in a dry bag, so just make sure of that. I think these are almost a must for trips. Hey Joe, you got one of these? Foldable chair? No? You do have one, you don't have it with you today? Oh no! He's so hardcore. I'm such a princess. But you know what? We're not doing a lot of hiking on this trip, so I wussed out and I brought the chair. So this is my sleeping bag that I'll be using. It's a Phantom, it's a Mountain Hardwear Phantom Spark, -2 Celsius. So it folds down to, I could compress this even more. Absolutely love this sleeping bag. And if you guys spend gear on one thing that's gonna last you, that you can save the most weight and volume in your pack, is a good sleeping bag. So anyways, recommend that. Now here's my sleeping pad. It's an X-Ped Sin Mat. It's not the smallest or lightest one you can get nowadays, but it is, it's big. I'm 6'2", and there's plenty of room on here, and it is 3.5 inches thick, and it has a R value of 6. So I'm willing to take the hit for weight and size for comfort at nighttime. So this mat's awesome. Like I said, it's a little bigger than I would like, but as far as comfort wise, I'm 47, so not getting any younger. If I'm doing some of the trips that I'm doing, I want a good night's sleep, and it's worth paying the price for that.
Actually, an old sleeping bag. I have videos of me using this 6 years ago.
So like I was saying, my air mattress has a little bit of insulation in it. It's an R6 value, which especially when you have a down sleeping bag, is important, because even though it's not crazy cold if you're spring or fall camping and you don't think it's that cold out, you do need a little insulation between you and the ground. And if you got a down sleeping bag like the one I have, which is fantastic, but it compresses as soon as you lie on it, so the down insulation underneath you does zero to keep you warm. So it's something to think about when you're buying an air mattress. It's worth it to get one with a little bit of insulation inside it. Usually this is my son's job, but I gotta do it this time. Another thing I used to do with these air mattresses is overinflate them. In the middle of the night I realized it was like sleeping on a board. So something to think about too when you're inflating these things. Hop on it, you sit on it. If you touch the bottom of the tent, that's not a bad thing. Lie on it, and you'll get a better feel for if there's too much air. If you're lying on it and you're touching the bottom, then obviously you need to put a little bit more in. So I'm going to leave it now. I'm going to let my sleeping bag puff up a little bit, sorts from my other gear, and before you know it, we'll be getting ready to make a fire. Okay, so once you get camp set up, you're going to have a tent bag, a pole bag. This is the bag for my chair. This is a compression sack for my sleeping bag. I put everything in the tent bag just to keep track of things. So one of the things I use my dry bag for, in a pinch, I use it as a little mat while I'm getting in the tent. So I'll put that there. Actually, I'll put it this way because there's some stuff at the end. So I'll use that to kneel on when I'm getting in the tent. So I try to keep my tent as clean as I can, right? And again, this little Z-mat thing is really handy to have. So here's the chair that I'm going to be using. Joe's out making his chair, and I took an easier route. If you're going to do trips, depending on where you're going, a lot of places, even Algonquin Park, you could be in the most remote campsite in Algonquin Park, and chances are you can find a log to sit on, that sort of thing. But once you start venturing off into different places, some of the campsites that you're going to go to, you're not going to have anything to sit down on. So it's up to you. I don't always take a chair with me, but in this particular case, especially when it's really damp and wet, I like to get off the ground. This is an Rei Foldable Chair. I think I've weighed this. It comes in under 2 pounds. It's pretty compact for the size and comfort of it. Super durable. Can't say enough about these. There's a lot of companies that make similar chairs, but it's good to have. So you can see how quickly that goes together. There we go. So when I do my trips, when I go on trips, I like being as efficient as I can. And it kind of contradicts with a bit of the bushcraft ideology bushcraft mentality that maybe Joe has. So I'm not out here trying to be Joe. Joe is obviously an expert in the bushcraft fields, and I can appreciate the tarp and cutting tree branches for chairs and that sort of thing. And there's a time and a place for that for me personally. But generally, the trips I go on, I want to make some distance, and I want setting up camp as easy as possible so I can actually enjoy the scenery when I get to where I'm going. Or that if I'm putting in distance and I'm doing a long trip, I can just rest and you know, deal with other things than just setting up camp, that sort of stuff. So again, it's a different philosophy, but for me personally, I like just throwing up a tent. I know how to put it up. I can put it up within minutes. My shelter's set. My chair is set. So anyways, that's a little philosophy on what I got. And the snow is really coming down. I'm going to be shifting gears, and I'm going to start collecting some firewood, that sort of thing. And I'm going to go over what I'm going to be using to make my fire. Going to go over what I use for knife, hatchet, saw, that sort of thing. Give you some suggestions. Give you my theories, because I mean, hey, trust me, I'm a guy on YouTube. And why shouldn't you take my advice? I'm a stranger on YouTube. There you go. Anyways, it's may even be time for me to put on my raincoat again. It's getting windy. So we're in full-on blizzard mode. I can't even see the water out there right now. So I've gone over this in a few of my videos. These toe warmers, it's not like I'm sponsored by them or anything. By no means do I have any sponsors. But anyways, these toe warmers, I use them for all my trips in the wintertime, and I cannot say enough good things about these things. So anyways, it's literally probably about -2. We're out here in a blizzard, setting up our gear, just kind of clouding around. But I've just put these on my boots. I just like wearing hiking boots. They're not insulated boots, and they're my all-time favorite boots. I love them. They're comfortable, but they're not the most warm boots in the world. So I throw those toe warmers on top of my toes, and my feet are fine. And really, as long as your feet are warm, the rest of you can be warm. Like it's comfortable here, despite the fact that it's a full-on blizzard. So another thing, the reason kind of why I even brought this up, I've already told you about the toe warmers, is just garbage. If you go on trips, I always bring a garbage bag. Don't go on a trip without bringing a garbage bag. When you leave for your trip, even when you go to Algonquin Park, they actually give you a yellow garbage bag, and it really bothers me when I get to a campsite and there's stuff left behind. People, for some reason, believe that aluminum beer cans melt and that sort of stuff, or will burn, right? So anyways, before I left the house, I grabbed a garbage bag because, you know what? I know that there's going to be a wrapper or two or stuff like this that I don't want to throw. So you can shove it in your pockets, that sort of thing. But I like having a garbage bag where I know that's where it is. And of course, having a garbage bag's handy for other things, right? If you need to keep something dry, that sort of stuff. So anyways, I just wanted to make that little point and bring up the fact that, yeah, just bring a garbage bag with you. Okay, now Joe is out cutting branches. He's just wildly swinging his axe. Sometimes I think he just likes doing that. So he's out there doing that, and I pretty much have my camp set up. My tent is good, sleeping bag, all my gear is in the vestibules dry. I don't have to worry about anything as far as that goes. My food I'll get into in my stove, that sort of stuff. But right now I've had a few snacks. I had pepperoni and some trail mix, and I'm gonna go kind of work on getting some wood cut up. All right. Well, as you can see, there's no shortage of firewood anywhere around here. Also, you may have noticed, got my glasses on. I do require reading glasses, which I'm not crazy about. I've had 20/20 vision all my life, but over the last couple of years, once you get in your 40s, you guys watching this know that us old guys start to need reading glasses. So that's what these are, but they're called progressive lenses or whatever. So they're reading glasses. They're kind of bifocals without the defined line through them. So anyways, what I'm clamoring on about is I like to put them on just when I'm using an axe and kind of protect my eyes from the odd flying piece of wood that the last thing you want to do is have an eye injury while you're on a trip. You know, you look after trying not to break your leg, you look after trying not to cut your finger off, but if something actually got in your eye, there's nothing you can really do about it, and that would cause you some severe aggravation on any trip. So anyways, I like to wear these when I'm cutting wood. because I don't carry a very big axe, I just like going light. So this little hatchet is big enough to cut wood, really everything I need for a fire for myself or a small group of people that you know, we just want to cook over the fire, have a small fire at nighttime. So there's this thickness of branches everywhere in the forest here, so there's no problem getting wood to get a fire going. Great thing about these chairs is they're perfect for collecting your shavings. You don't want to get them wet because everything out here is wet. So I found a nice little dry section here of this fallen tree. I've been using this as a little workstation.
Woo! Not cold anymore. So I think that we're gonna split up duties, and Scott's gonna stay here and get the fire going. I'm gonna head out back into the woods and collect some more firewood because we don't have enough to hold us over all night, especially if we start it now.